Now, a special report from KARE 11 Investigates.
Some of the events were just like made up.
Whistleblower revelations.
I just admitted to a crime.
Questions dodged.
What did you know about the suspicious Medicaid billing, and when did you know it, sir?
Addiction exploited.
Some of it's just flat out lies.
Oversight non-existent.
It's fraudulent billing.
Fraud warnings ignored.
And it seems like they're asleep at the wheel.
And ultimately, reforms swift.
We had to do something.
KARE 11 Investigates. Recovery, Inc. Thanks for joining us. I'm KARE 11 investigative reporter AJ Lagoe. Our state and nation are facing an addiction crisis. In Minnesota alone, more than 1,000 people a year die of overdose. There's a massive need for resources, and tens of millions of tax dollars are being thrown at the problem. Our team set out to follow the money. What we exposed led to multiple state and federal investigations, new laws, and one of the state's largest providers shutting down amidst credible allegations of fraud.
That motion prevails. We are in closed session.
The Blaine, Minnesota City Council Workshop is not where you normally go with questions about millions of dollars in Medicaid billing.
Mayor Sanders, AJ Lagoe, I'm from KARE 11 News. We've got questions for you about Refocus Recovery.
Statement.
But when the mayor is involved and dodging questions, you go where the story takes you. Blaine Mayor and former longtime state legislator Tim Sanders was executive director of the nonprofit Refocus Recovery. KARE 11 was investigating allegations of fraudulent Medicaid billing by Refocus.
You're saying that didn't happen?
I'm saying that outright did not happen.
Aubrey Kirstensen battles addiction. While living in a Minneapolis sober home, Aubrey was signed up for what's known as peer services. Think mentors who themselves have gone through addiction recovery. Aubrey acknowledges receiving valuable assistance, but not nearly the amount billed to Medicaid.
Bill after bill after bill for hundreds and hundreds into thousands of dollars by Refocus Recovery.
Let's back up. The Minnesota legislature in 2019 made peer services billable to Medicaid at a rate of $60 per hour.
We want to make sure that people who are peers are there to support people on their recovery journey.
State Representative Luke Frederick is a leading proponent of the power peer support can play in recovery.
It's one of the most, if not the most impactful resource available in someone's recovery journey.
Refocus Recovery, the nonprofit led by Mayor Sanders, quickly became Minnesota's leading peer services biller. In fact, KARE 11's analysis of Medicaid data revealed since 2022, Refocus billed more than all other peer providers in the state combined, $14+ million. But was it all on the up and up?
In the last 2 months, how many hours of peer services would you think you were actually provided?
Maybe 10.
10 hours in 2 months.
Tops.
Aubrey's records show in those 2 months, Refocus Recovery billed for 47 hours. In public Facebook posts, Aubrey accused Refocus of excessive billing.
It's not even excessive billing, it's fraudulent billing.
Was that true? We began going over billing records with other clients.
Some of it's just flat out lies.
When you look at the records you got, in your opinion, is there false billing there?
Oh, most definitely. Absolutely. Yep.
Refocus Recovery's tax records revealed the nonprofit hired another company to actually provide the peer services, funneling $4.5 million, more than 96% of its 2022 revenue, to subsidiaries of a for-profit tech company called Kyros.
My name is Daniel Larson, and I'm the CEO and founder of Kyros.
But get this, Daniel Larson, the founder of Kyros, also founded Refocus Recovery. Although the tax filing says he did not participate in the vote to hire Kyros, Larson was on the Refocus board. At the same time, virtually all the nonprofit's revenue went to his for-profit company.
So I prosecuted all kinds of fraud, healthcare fraud, I prosecuted the mafia.
KARE 11 took those same tax records to Doug Kelly, the former Minnesota head of the U.S. Attorney's white-collar crime section.
When you have huge amounts of money going into the nonprofit and then going to a for-profit, that's a concern, and that's a red flag.
We discovered Kyros and Refocus shared office space and even the same mailbox. In addition to Mayor Sanders, the Kyros Refocus partnership hired politically connected and powerful people to boost their brand and fight oversight.
My name is Amy Delwo. Currently, I work as the Vice President of Strategic Policy and Growth for Kyros.
Amy Delwo, seen here testifying at the Capitol against increased oversight of organizations like Refocus Recovery, is former Chief of Staff of DHS, the state agency that's supposed to oversee Medicaid billing. Their Chief Compliance Officer was Kathleen Finnegan, a former Ramsey prosecutor and top attorney at the State Commerce Department. Kyros' lawyer was former judge and U.S. Attorney Erica McDonald. Daniel Larson loved to tout his company as an altruistic endeavor.
And we're helping over 4,500 people in the community, tens of thousands of hours of service every month.
Medicaid can't legally be billed by for-profit companies like Kyros for those service hours, but it can be billed by a nonprofit like Refocus Recovery. And once Refocus got access to the taxpayer-funded program, CARE's investigation found Refocus hired Kyros and passed most of the cash straight to the for-profit. And there was plenty of profit to be made. This internal record CARE 11 obtained shows Kyros told investors out of the $60 Medicaid paid per client per hour, Kyros paid peer providers $25 and capped the remaining $35. Under that plan, Kyros projected by the end of 2024 nearly $30 million in gross profit.
If it turns out that the nonprofit is a mere shell corporation to get the money into a for-profit, that's a huge red flag.
As we continued to dig, we uncovered even more red flags. Example, state requirements say peers can only bill for phone calls with clients in two scenarios. The appointment is pre-scheduled or if the client calls in an emergency or crisis. But we discovered Kyros directly instructed workers on their website any phone call over 8 minutes qualifies, and sent texts directing them to drive up billing hours with any phone calls.
Did you know that having phone calls with client qualifies as service hours? Keep your client hours up. This is an actual email.
It's text, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's inconsistent with my current understanding of state law.
DFL State Senator John Hoffman chairs the Human Services Committee. Senator Jim Abler is the top Republican on that committee and was equally outraged.
It's a suggestion to maximize billing on services that aren't compensable. What would you call it?
To further maximize billing, records show Kyros held contests and gave bonuses for additional hours billed. One of the winners was Aubrey's peer provider.
It's egregious.
When any company is all like, hey, there's going to be a competition this month to who can turn in the most hours, I ask anyone, is that about someone's treatment? Or is that a competition to see who can bill the most hours to bring in the most Medicaid dollars?
That's a question we wanted to ask Kyros and Refocus, but they refused or backed out of interviews, including once when our team was already standing in their lobby. Mayor Sanders also did not respond to questions about the allegations of fraudulent Medicaid billing on his watch, which is why we walked up to him at the city council meeting.
What did you know about the suspicious Medicaid billing, and when did you know it, sir? Why do you think as a public official you don't owe the public answers about all of the Medicaid billing that doesn't look right?
Mayor Sanders then sent out an official press release that stated he's, quote, disappointed by CARE 11's irresponsible and inaccurate reporting, which has shown a complete disregard for the truth. Kyros also sent out statements claiming their billing for peer services adheres to the guidelines set forth by the law. Still ahead.
Just admitted to a crime.
Whistleblower confessions and the state agency supposed to be providing oversight turning a blind eye.
And it seems like they're asleep at the wheel.
Recovery Inc. continues after the break. A CARE 11 office floor is a strange place to begin piecing together a puzzle.
It's like a collage.
As the picture comes together, Daniel Schultz's health records paint a picture hidden from public view until now.
When you look at the records you got, in your opinion, is there false billing there?
Oh, most definitely. Absolutely.
Daniel's records led KARE 11 to watch on a Saturday morning as a pickup truck pulls into the back of a Whole Foods store. It's driven by a man named Meyer Belkin, who owns a network of sober homes. Belkin and another man load the vehicle, just like Daniel says he used to do, with donated groceries destined for the residents of Belkin's sober homes. Free food for people who likely need it. Yet, for taxpayers, our investigation discovered these weekly Whole Foods runs come with a hefty hidden bill.
He was billing my insurance for that time that I was with him.
Daniel's insurance is Medicaid. He's in addiction recovery and in 2023 moved here into one of Belkin's Minneapolis sober homes. On day one, Daniel said he was told he needed an assessment.
Like, I truly thought this assessment was to, give me permission to live in one of these houses.
Daniel didn't know the assessment was done by a software company called Kyros, which, along with its nonprofit arm, Refocus Recovery, provided and charged Medicaid for peer services, basically mentors for people battling addiction. Belkin's sober home company, Act 2, was a partner of Kyros, and Belkin himself worked as a peer provider for Kyros. So, getting that Kyros assessment
allowed them to start charging my insurance for things that I was unaware of.
You were receiving peer services without even knowing you were signed up for peer services?
Correct.
Daniel got suspicious months later.
Yeah.
When he tried to sign up for peer services to get help with rides to and from his outpatient treatment and AA meetings, only to learn he was already in the Kyros system being billed for by Belkin and others.
But there were no services that had happened. And so that's when a red flag went off.
He later demanded his records from Kyros. Kyros Chief Compliance Officer Kathleen Finnegan, a former Ramsey prosecutor and top attorney at the State Commerce Department, eventually handed him, after a month of waiting, a printed out spreadsheet he had to stretch across the floor and tape together just to begin to read.
Is this how a client should be provided their medical record?
At a bare minimum, that, in my view, violates, at the very least, the spirit of the law.
Brandon Thompson is one of the Twin Cities' leading medical malpractice attorneys. He points out Minnesota's patient rights law mandates the release of complete and current information in terms and language the patient can reasonably be expected to understand.
A lot of information that is literally cut off the page, and so half the sentence is gone.
In addition to cut-off sentences,
we don't have those notes on these ones, do we?
Daniel's records often offer no explanation of what service he allegedly received.
They were almost incomprehensible. The goal here should be to make it so it's easy for people to read, not so that they have to print stuff out and put together some jigsaw puzzle and tape it together on the floor.
Kyros refused to do interviews, but sent a statement about Daniel's records that said, if any client information was cut off due to formatting when printed, it was certainly not intentional. However, Kyros never responded to Daniel's emails asking for the missing information.
They're a software company. This is in a computer.
After putting the puzzle together, as much as possible, Daniel has two conclusions about what was billed to Medicaid in his name.
Some of the events were just made up.
And other billed events, like the grocery runs, appear improper. Example, on February 18th, Daniel's records show Belkin billed Medicaid $120 for a Whole Foods run. Daniel has texts that show he and Meyer discuss how 3 other sober home residents are joining them. And Meyer writes,
I guess 4 people works.
That's a problem because state law requires peer services be provided one-to-one. No groups.
If you have multiple people in a vehicle at the same time, how are you providing that one-to-one individual support?
Minnesota State University at Mankato Associate Professor Roy Kammer is the former executive director of the Minnesota Certification Board. the agency that credentials peers.
One-to-one is you and me sitting here having a conversation right now. We're one-to-one.
Belkin declined to be interviewed on camera, but in phone calls said he believed he was billing ethically and in an email wrote, "Our charting was supervised by Kyros." Belkin was not alone in claiming Kyros instructed their peers to group bill.
I just admitted to a crime that I didn't know I committed. Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Ruby McNiff previously worked as a peer for Kyros.
They didn't tell you when you went through training that you couldn't bill for groups?
No, I was told that that was fine. And I asked how to do that, and he said just bill them back to back.
By back to back, Ruby means on her billing calendar, she was told to document a group meeting as if it were actually a series of one-on-one meetings.
You'd meet with a group of people from, say, 4 to 6, but then bill it as if they were 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Ruby said she was encouraged to do this and has proof.
The proof is in the pudding.
Example, on the 4th of July, Ruby is taking a group of clients to the fireworks. She texts a Kyros supervisor. "Can I bill for that?" She got a thumbs up. She asked, "How? Just schedule them back to back?" The supervisor responded, "Yeah." She showed us notes she submitted to Kyros, plainly stating she took a group to the fireworks.
That's what I was told I could do, so I did.
And it wasn't just fireworks. There were also movies. Our investigation uncovered internal emails showing Kyros holding taxpayer-funded movie nights, instructing workers in all caps, "This is a billable event. Bring 2 clients to the movie, and it counts as a 2-hour appointment for each client."
Did you know your insurance was being billed for you to go watch this movie?
No, not at all.
Nick Costa's records show his insurance was billed for 2 hours for watching Guardians of the Galaxy. He says there's no way his peers should have billed that as one-to-one service.
No, I didn't even sit next to him.
It doesn't seem to me like there's any oversight, regulation. Who has eyes on this stuff?
Still ahead, our investigation found the state agency supposed to be providing oversight turning a blind eye.
It's time for DHS to act. And to not act is to fail in their mission.
Recovery Inc. continues after the break. Downtown St. Paul in November 2023. Inside the River Center, Minnesota's largest conference of addiction treatment providers is underway. The Diamond sponsors an unlikely pairing, a private company called Kyros and the Minnesota Department of Human Services, the state agency which had just wrapped up an investigation into allegations Kyros was billing Medicaid illegally.
It's critical that when fraud is alleged, especially on a substantial nature like this, that a deep dive get done.
Carol Evans shared records with Republican State Senator Jim Abler that reveal DHS's investigation of Kyros Medicaid billing was more toe dip than deep dive.
It seems like they're asleep at the wheel.
In both November of 2022 and February of 2023, DHS's Inspector General received complaints that Kyros' nonprofit partner, Refocus Recovery, was improperly billing in groups and for peer recovery services that are not occurring. In response, DHS looked at just 6 clients' records for a 3-month window and found a few relatively minor paperwork errors, like missing signatures.
When we asked, DHS confirmed no attempt was made to actually call a client or peer provider to determine if the services that taxpayers were billed for were actually provided.
Refocus got an $850 slap on the wrist. Case closed. DFL State Senator John Hoffman chairs the Human Services Committee, which has oversight of DHS. We shared with him the records we uncovered that show DHS never even addressed the actual allegations of group and false billing.
Are you surprised that we found evidence of those very things?
No, I'm not surprised, because you followed the trail that a good investigator should be following, right? I mean, follow the money.
It's not even the first red flag DHS received about Kyros and Refocus. In July 2022, a national group, the Alliance for Recovery-Centered Organizations, or ARCO, revoked Refocus Recovery's membership.
In this letter, ARCO cited concerns about the business practices and undue influence on Refocus Recovery by Kyros. Minnesota usually requires ARCO membership, so this move threatened Refocus's and therefore Kyros' ability to bill Medicaid. Records show they appealed directly to DHS Commissioner Jody Harpstead, who let them keep on billing. At the same time, Carol Evans' investigation was discovering exactly what DHS failed to even look for. Client
Some of it's just flat out lies.
after client
Some of the events were just like made up.
after client who told us they did not receive the service taxpayers were being billed for.
It's fraudulent billing.
Throw in employees billing group meetings as if they were actually a series of one-to-one encounters, taxpayer-funded movie nights, and contests to increase Medicaid billing.
Based on what you're looking at there, does DHS need to reopen their investigation?
They need to have an investigation.
Coming up,
The media brought some very important stuff to us that we should have known.
legislative reforms enacted and official investigations launched.
DHS can confirm the existence of an ongoing investigation regarding Kyros and Refocus Recovery.
That's still ahead. We'll be right back. In a place agreement is not easy to come by.
We had to do something.
Reforms? Greenlighted.
There being 126 ayes and 0 nays.
The road to getting here began when Carol Evans started investigating a company called Kyros and its nonprofit partner, Refocus Recovery.
Legislation came in response to one specific bad actor.
There were a series of hearings where lawmakers demanded action.
I hope DHS starts flexing some muscle as quickly as fast as you can to stop the bleeding.
DHS can confirm the existence of an ongoing investigation regarding Kyros and Refocus Recovery.
The FBI launched a criminal investigation. While they denied wrongdoing, Daniel Larson was ousted as Kyros' CEO, and Blaine Mayor Tim Sanders quit his job as Refocus's executive director.
Did there need to be more oversight of how things were being billed?
Absolutely. Yes, they're dead.
Representative Heather Edelson played a key role in drafting one of the new laws that, in part, banned nonprofits with conflicting self-interests.
It was very clear to us in Minnesota that that was happening.
Remember, Carol Evans found 96% of the tax dollars Refocus received funneled to the for-profit Kyros. But even with new laws passed, CARE's investigation found suspicious billing by Kyros and Refocus continued.
Where were you on August 24th?
I was in Cokato, Minnesota, attending my son's wedding.
Photos from the day show Holly Malchuk dancing with her son. But Kyros and Refocus records show she was billed as if she was at home 3 hours away attending a support group.
No, this is blatantly obvious.
DHS had finally seen enough. On September 6th, they issued this letter citing credible allegations of fraud. Refocus was banned from billing Medicaid. For Kyros, it was a fatal blow. Less than 2 weeks later, Carol Evans noticed social media lighting up with posts from Kyros employees saying, "Kyros is done. Company is gone." Emails and phone calls to Kyros execs went unanswered, so we paid their downtown headquarters a visit.
Lights are all off.
It was empty. The office?
Anybody here?
A ghost town. A scene that a year ago would have seemed impossible at Minnesota's largest provider of peer services.
Doesn't look like anybody's here at all.
Company employees later received this email stating Kyros Care has permanently closed its office headquarters. While state and federal investigations still loom, it appears Kyros in Minnesota wrote its own last chapter. The sudden closing left hundreds of people in recovery scrambling to find new services. Meanwhile, a federal grand jury investigation is underway, and we've confirmed former Kyros and Refocus insiders have received visits at home, some unannounced, from the FBI. On behalf of our Carol Evans Investigates team, I'm AJ Lagoe.
Sold off for pennies on the dollar.
That's what's happening to the company that was previously Minnesota's largest provider of addiction recovery peer services. AJ Lagoe is here with the latest developments in his multi-year Recovery Inc. investigation. AJ?
Yeah, Julie, Kyros shut down its Minnesota operations last fall amidst a slew of state and federal fraud investigations that were launched in the wake of Carol Levin's reporting. This week, a judge weighing plans to sell off Kyros' software platforms as its ousted CEO cries foul.
At the Hennepin County Court, a legal battle unfolding.
My name is Daniel Larson, and I'm the CEO and founder of Kyros.
Daniel Larson, the founder and former CEO of Kyros, filing motions to delay the court-appointed receiver's sale of the company's software, alleging gross undervaluation and fiduciary breaches. Kyros closed in September 2024, following Carol Levin's investigation exposing Medicaid dollars flowing into the for-profit Kyros from the nonprofit Refocus Recovery, also founded by Larson. Carol Levin's investigation exposed allegation.
Some of it's just flat out lies.
After allegation.
Some of the events were just like made up.
After allegation.
This is blatantly obvious.
Of false billing by Kyros and Refocus Recovery.
It's not even like excessive billing, it's fraudulent billing.
DHS suspended Medicaid payments, citing credible allegations of fraud, and the FBI launched ongoing criminal investigations. Kyros previously claimed in May 2024 that Larson voluntarily stepped down from the role as CEO. But in an affidavit submitted to the court, Larson now says he was unilaterally removed by Justin Koffenberg, a Kyros board member and managing director of Raleigh Ventures, the company's largest investor. Insolvent and owing large debts to creditors, including the federal government, Kyros' assets are being sold off. Larson told the court prior to Carol Levin's first report the company was valued at $34 million. Its tech platform now set to be sold off for just $380,000. In his attempt to block the sale, Larson argued it's a fraction of their worth. He also labeled investigations into his company politically motivated.
Hennepin Judge Michelle Hatcher called Larson's arguments moot and said she was unpersuaded. She signed an order authorizing the sale of Kyros assets. Sources tell me state and federal fraud investigations are active and ongoing. Julie.
All right. Thanks so much, AJ.
Yeah.